And welcome to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless. I'm excited about what we have today with our guests. We have Vanessa with us. We're supposed to have Tara with us as well, but she has a family obligation she needed to take care of, such as military life and what happens. A couple things I wanted to mention before we get into all of the good nitty-gritty details of everything happening today. If you have not heard yet about Move.mil, that it will eventually transfer over to Military One Source. I believe that end date is something around the end of November, but I'll double check on that. But Move.mil will eventually go away and you'll have to go to Military One Source. All of that information is on Military One Source already, even how to access DPS. So, just try to get into the mindset of you need to go to Military One Source, not Move.mil. So that's the first thing. And then, let's just jump right into it. So
Megan?
Yes.
Hey, it looks like November 1st.
November 1st. Thank you.
November 1st, Move.mil will close and all the website visits will be automatically forwarded to our new landing page at Military One Source.
I knew it was November. I thought it was the end. Vanessa corrects me. So it's perfect. So November 1st, Move.mil will go away. It will sunset and Military One Source will be where you need to go. Now, I do believe they are going to have it kind of auto-direct. So if you type in Move.mil, it's supposed to automatically redirect you to Military One Source. But just, they're doing that as a way to kind of consolidate where they have to push families to go for all of that information. So we're not having to go to 12 different websites for different things. They're trying to consolidate it down to one hub for us to go for that information. I see we have this question here. Will DPS login remain the same? Yes, you will still have to access DPS to set up your move, to do your claim, to do your survey, to manage your shipment, all of that good information. So when you go to Military One Source, it will have the link there that says, click here to access DPS. You click there, you still have to log into DPS to do all of that, set up your move kind of stuff. So yeah, just start getting into that mindset. It's Military One Source, not Move.mil. So getting into today, first episode here, and I thought what better way to kick off our series than to go back to the very beginning of what PCS Reform is and how it kind of all got started and the fun adventure that we've had over the last several years. So to kick it off, Vanessa, can you first introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I am Vanessa Fury. I am a Navy veteran and Navy active duty spouse. I got started with PCS Reform. I guess it really started with our horrible move in 2016 and then again in 2017. And then, continuously talking to Megan about it. And, I really have to give a lot of thanks to our inspector in Leavenworth, because he really gave me a lot of resources and said, hey, if you really want to know what's up, here's where you go to read it all. And I was like, great, I will do it. And then of course I shared with Megan and said, have fun. So that's kind of where I got started with it. However, I've served with Megan on Transcom's PP wrap since 2018. And then in 2019, I went to the CNO and said, sir, it'd be really great if we had a Navy panel so we don't have to take our Navy issues to Transcom. We can handle some stuff in-house. And he agreed and set me up with some of his admirals, and we've had a Navy panel active every month since 2019. So those are my monthly PCS obligations are Navy panel, Transcom panel, and then I do some volunteer work with my husband's command as the ombudsman as well.
So how many PCSs have you had between yourself and then your husband being married? Because I know you are prior service as well.
This last move was 10.
Okay, number 10.
So then the next move I hit, I start going upwards a little more.
Yeah, same projection timeline as us. So we completed 10 on our last PCS in 2019, and number 11 is supposed to be sometime 2022. We'll probably be right in the middle of peak season again, where we know what happens. We try to avoid it, but it's just like, I mean, it's life. It is what it is sometimes when it comes to that. And I think, Vanessa, you're a little bit, when you talk about how this kind of got started, I always think back to a very funny conversation we had when this all kind of took off and we got started with it. And I called you and I said, hey, will you do this with me? Seeing the projection that, all the attention it was getting when it all started, and knowing I couldn't do it by myself and I needed some friends to help me. And I called Vanessa and I was like, hey, will you, do this with me? Will you sit on this panel with me? And she was just like, I can't travel. Like, what is it you need me to do? I was just like, it's just a phone call a month. And then here we were the very following month, we were going to DC. We were invited to Mrs. Pence's office to brief her staff. And then that following month, we went back to DC, driving 2.5, 3 hours to get there for an AUSA thing. And so it was just like, I don't need you to do anything but sit on the phone and ask some questions. And then here
Lies.
And I was just like, you need to come with me. We need to go travel. We need to go do these things. And
although I have to say, Megan, that was very fun. Like, it was cool to get to go visit. And then we ran into Tara's friend and, got to tour some back parts of the, the building that we may not have seen otherwise. Like, it was a fun trip. So
yeah, seeing the bowling alley in the basement of the Eisenhower Executive Building was pretty cool. And all the little secret gift shops that were hidden around, so connections there was definitely nice. So that's kind of how this all really got started, was at the fall of 2018 when, the petition that we had kind of kicked off. Congress, saw an interest in it and sent letters to Transcom. Transcom called, was asking, what is your purpose with this? What are you doing? And at the time, we didn't really know what it is that we wanted to do. We didn't really know what it was that we were aiming for. We just knew there was this issue and it was a problem and it was impacting a lot of people. And a lot of our friends had horrible moves. A lot of us had horrible moves. And, we wanted to make sure that something came of it and something, needed to be done and that we weren't just going to be given lip service over it. So over the past, what are we at now? 3 years, almost 3.5. I don't know, something like that now.
Yeah. This is 3.
Yeah, 3 years. We've sat on so many meetings, had so many conversations with folks. We've been able to get some of the business rules each year. So the tender of service that the moving industry agrees to when they go to take our shipments. We've been able to impact some of those business rules. So thinking back within that time frame, what have been some of those business rules that you've been really excited that we've proposed and Transcom's been like, yes, let's do it?
Well, depending on how the call goes next week, I was fairly excited about the, a little bit more standardization of the inconvenience claim, mostly because a lot of people didn't know what an inconvenience claim was, and I'd been filing them for years. I am looking forward to some clarification on the call next week, just to make sure that we're not getting shortchanged by the movie industry, because I feel like if I were to do a claim today for the same experience I had in 2016, I would be getting a lot less reimbursement for my out-of-pocket expenses. So hopefully the clarification is, in the direction I want it to be on Thursday, and not what I think is sort of happening. So so that's a pending for me.
Yeah. And inconvenience claims, we hear it a lot in our groups, are always a struggle for families to just understand what it is they're supposed to get, what they're entitled to, what is covered, what isn't covered. And it's something that we've pushed for a long time of how do we make this process easier, because it feels like it's very different per experience for each person. And it's very different as to what like the moving companies will pay for folks. And so the big question is, what's covered? And it's always, well, it's, your basic essentials that you need to live in your home, but it's like store brand items. Don't go buy the $80 gel memory foam pillow. Like, that's not going to get reimbursed to you. And so we've always been trying to push of how do we make this process a little bit easier, so that way families aren't trying to jump through hoops and learn a different language to understand what it is they should be getting in that. I know another one you said recently you're really excited about was the whole, I believe was implemented this year, was the covering of the home, for protecting the home, like the floor runners, covering front door.
So
Because I know
I
you've
have
had
been
an
fortunate to
experience.
have that before. Like I had a pretty good experience with, I don't know, my last couple moves have been much better than moving in 2017. Moving out in 2019 was like night and day difference. It was amazing. They literally covered everything. So there was no damage to my home, which, you know, given the history in the past, we had quite a bit of damage to the home almost every time we moved. So not having it this time because of those protections was really helpful. And I frankly don't see how that also isn't beneficial to the moving company. Just a little bit of preparation on the front end saves them a lot of expense on the back end. So yeah, I was definitely happy to see that implemented. I'm sad to hear in the groups that some moving companies are still not implementing this.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we still have a little way to go with the industry getting them all on board with please protect people's homes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I always feel like there's a little bit of I don't know what you would call it, a gap between when the new business rules take effect every May 15th and when we see like those fully implemented with companies. It always feels like there's a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so that, we finally get everybody on board with what those new changes are and what needs to be happening. One of the things that you had talked about was, you're able to contact Navy folks and be able to stand up this Navy panel. Can you talk a little bit about what that panel is like and just how much of a difference it makes to be able to handle some issues and address some of that impact from in-house on the Navy level?
Sure. No, it's been fantastic. So I have a pretty good relationship with Jay Yerke and Deloma Miley, who work at NAVSUP headquarters. So they run the Navy's household goods program. And so, the majority of the issues that I get are something that Jay or Deloma can handle pretty quickly. And that's been great to have those contacts. I mean, even on weekends, they'll answer me. So that's been, a really good relationship and something that I wouldn't have had without the stand up of that panel. We have CNIC come in to talk to us every month about housing numbers and, where we're hurting. And, they talk a little bit about, we have the BAH chief come in and talk to us a little bit about, areas of the country where, this is the increase we've seen greater than 10%. And this is why, only 6 Navy bases got the temporary BAH increase. Although frankly, that was a big disappointment to I think all of us on the panel. But we also have PERS sitting on the panel. They actually run it. And we have their pay folks on the line. So anytime like I run into people with big pay issues, and it's happened, after they've run through my Navy Career Center and that hasn't worked, sometimes people don't run it up their command. And I know that's what PERS would prefer them to do, but that's not what everybody does. Especially when it's the service member that generally has to do that. And on my end, it's the spouse I'm talking to who's just super frustrated that it's been 6 months and they're still out tens of thousands of dollars and can't figure out why they can't get reimbursement. So, I run it up to PERS and then, they're usually able to handle it pretty quickly once it gets to them. So we have been able to handle a few things that I think have helped a lot of folks and hope, continue to help folks.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know the Marine Corps, they have their own spouse PCS group where they talk with Marine Corps leadership as well. And then I've been able to get one started as well within the Army community and with the Army leadership. And I think it just makes a big difference to be able to have those conversations between those that are, governing and enforcing what the PCS process is with those who are actually receiving the service of what the PCS process is and being able to identify those shortfalls and where it can be better. And being able to have them also help advocate, at their level for what changes need to happen based off of our feedback and what we're, able to talk about and able to do. So.
Oh, definitely. I just had an issue recently when I was talking to Jay about the inconvenience claims, and he's like, we have the Transcom call coming up. I'll bring it up on my end. And I said, how about I bring it up on my end first, and then I'll copy you and you can reinforce. And that worked out really, really well. So they knew it wasn't just a concern on the spouse side. It was, also coming from, the Navy official side.
Yeah. And it's great that we have these relationships where we can be able to, we see these issues that happen within our groups. And if we try to walk them through the steps of, did you contact this person first? And then that person, did you, this, that, or whatever. And if it's, we see that they're still floundering out in the waves by themselves, we're able to say, okay, give me this information and we can contact our folks directly for them to be able to step in and get some quick resolution rather than just, being out there trying to figure out what they're supposed to do and not get any information at all. So I think it's a great thing that we've been able to, over the last year and a half, establish these relationships within our service headquarters and have these panels and these discussions and really be able to impact things on another level. So, we've been at this for 3 years, looking ahead into the future. Plans, ideas, thoughts, goals?
Well, one thing that the Navy implemented this year was Move May, and they kind of did a social media blitz and did on basically all of their platforms, coming from PERS, coming from CNIC, coming from Navy Household Goods. Like they, constantly were posting things, like tidbits. And I sat in on a panel. There were a couple of other panels with spouses, where people could ask questions live. We had the PAO from PERS. It was a pretty good experience. I think we could have more involvement there. We asked a lot of spouses, hey, would you mind doing a short video on your best tips for, PCS or whatever? And we didn't get a lot of response. I'm hoping that, May of 2022, we have a lot more participation. So it's a little more diverse. And it's not just the people sitting on the panel that are doing these videos. I don't know. Like, I would like to see the other services do something similar, like, pick a month, preferably before peak season. So Move May worked out perfect. So if all the services could kind of do a Move May and do this, media blitz and lots of, snippets, because the groups are great. However, like, I know they're a little overwhelming for some people. They don't know where to start. They sometimes don't use the search feature because that information is there. And, frankly, some people don't know that, the PCS like a pro group exists. So I think getting the word out on that would be super helpful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that the Navy does their Move May. It's something I've brought up to my Army folks as well, to, looking ahead what we can plan and do, because there is so much information that is out there between what your responsibilities are, the policies, the regulations, who you're supposed to contact, who has a hand in your move. It can feel very overwhelming and very daunting when you try to navigate through there to find what it is that you're supposed to know. And so I think, being able to put it out there in these little easy digestible, bits and pieces on social media throughout an extended period of time can go a long way to helping our families understand what it is they need to know and how things are supposed to be implemented. And I love the idea of getting other spouses involved in doing these videos, because we can have regulations all day, but there are so many great moving tips and tricks and little things you don't think of that has worked great for somebody else, and somebody tells you and you're just like, why did I not think of that? Like, why had I not known that? Like, that seems like, the most basic thing ever, but you never thought of it. And so seeing it and hearing it from someone else, I think, can go a long way to just helping a family feel really prepared for their move.
Great. I mean, one of the things that I think made my 2017 move a lot better was I finally got with the program. I went to IKEA and bought all of their different size, like their version brand Ziploc bags. And I packed all of the little things and all of my crafty things and all of that I put into bags, and it was so easy unpacking, like so much better than just piles and piles of things. It was great. I could put it right back into the drawer that it went into. It's still there now, still in the bags. So it's ready for the next move. Yeah. But just those little, tips from other spouses, like, hey, I use this kind of moving label, or hey, like, I love those things because, I frankly don't have the time to sit around all day and like make my move 100%. So I appreciate the tips from other people that have gone before, and and then I can implement that, and then I feel like I'm really put together on move day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you're in our group, and if you're not, you need to go join it. We'll get the link dropped in the comments for you, but you will find out we are a big fan. Just bag it. Just bag everything. Like, it just makes it so much more easier. All your office supplies, the craft supplies, as Vanessa said, your kids' little tiny toys, like, just find, the size of Ziploc bag that works for you and just bag it. It keeps all those little pieces together. You're not trying to fish out paper clips and Lego pieces when you're trying to unpack, where you get to the point where you're just like, forget it. We don't really need that Lego piece anymore. So just bag your items. It goes a long way. You'll see we're always talking about different types of bags. And
I know a lot of people use garbage bags for their clothes to put it over the hangers and kind of tie it at the bottom. However, I'm a little bougie, I guess. But I found fairly inexpensive IKEA clothing bags, and I put a lot of my stuff into those. So just because I don't like plastic that much.
Yeah, and there's multiple, as you can see here, there's multiple ways to do the same process. We use the trash bags. You do it right, then when you get to your other end, you still have a whole stack of trash bags that you just take off your clothes and you fold them under your kitchen counter, and you've got them to use now for all the trash moving in. Vanessa uses the garment bags. I know other people that will go out and buy like the rolls of like the dress bags, the actual, you go to Dillard's and you buy a dress, and they, people actually buy those because they're designed for it. So there's multiple ways to do the same thing, but it still just makes it easier when you're moving in. And we're going to have a whole show later about all the tips and tricks and hacks and, everything that's made it easier to kind of help consolidate all of that stuff together. So you'll definitely want to come back for that. But Vanessa, thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. I really appreciate it. I know me and her talk frequently, constantly. I appreciate you being on this journey with me with PCS Reform and saying yes to it and letting it, the travel, everything that I told you, you don't have to do. You just have to get on a phone call, and how much more it's become from that. So, thank you for always being there for me, for being on this ride with me, and for joining us here today.
No, thank you, Megan. I'm happy to be here. And, I really, really like the service aspect of it and just helping folks. Like, it makes me feel so good when people post like, hey, thanks so much for the advice. It really helped a lot. Or, hey, thanks for kind of putting me together with the folks I need to be in touch with. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a question in the chat, Megan.
Yep, I see it. I've got it right here. So do we differentiate between CONUS versus OCONUS for tips? So generally, all the tips we talk about, it can really be used for either. OCONUS versus CONUS, it doesn't matter where you're going. When we have that show and we go down the rabbit hole of, what we learned, what we do and everything, you can use those tips for whether you're going CONUS or OCONUS. There isn't, they're equal opportunity tips and hacks, for lack of better terminology. So,
and if there is a specific question, that's what the chat box is for. And of course we can, go from there.
Yeah. So join us back here next week. We will have a spouse on, Stephanie, talking about homeschooling with PCSing, everything you need to know to how to make it work for you, the regulations in regards to spouse pro gear and homeschooling equipment. Can it count for that? Can it not count for that? It's not allowed. But we'll get more into that next week. So come back.
Spoiler alert, Megan. Spoiler alert.
No, but Stephanie's got a lot of great information about homeschooling and PCSing. So if you fall into that category, if you are thinking about homeschooling and you're coming up on a PCS, Stephanie will be here to lay it all out for you with what you need to know. So join us next week, same place, same time, 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern. And we're going to have more fun next week. So until then, y'all have a great day, and we'll see you then. Bye.